not a walkthrough, playthrough, review, anything like that. It's just me playing the game badly so you can see what it looks like. Okay then, this is Ghost Pilots on the Neo Geo Mini. I'm just trying to work out, have I got the brightness right on my camera? Don't know. I don't know what weapons are we having, not a clue. So it is a vertical up the screen scrolling shoot 'em up with planes, and that's all I know. That does that. I'm not going to press the other button because I always do that and set off a smart bomb or whatever the big weapon is long before I need to. I do like this kind of game. I'm not good at them, I suck at them. But I like them. Give me that. Come here. Oh, bollocks. I mean, as a genre, it's 1942. The type of shooter that it is. Vertical, up the screen, aeroplanes, enemies come down at you, you shoot at them, and if you're me, you die a lot. I mean, it's so... There are lots of games of this type, and they're all just so obviously 1942, and I think that's fine. Because, oh, bollocks. You do get the difference of graphical style, the variation in stage layout and everything. You're never under any illusions as to any groundbreaking nature of the game. You know, it's 1942. It's just that being 1942 is not a bad thing in terms of games. And you do get extra features like power-ups and stuff. It's just all about how imaginative have they been in recreating a great game. And sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not. I'm enjoying this. I'm not doing especially well. I've died quite a bit already, as you've seen, and won't get very far. But I'll have fun getting not very far. I don't know how much it would have cost in the arcades to have a go. That's the thing. I mean, whoops. The hardware will have been vastly more expensive than the 1942 hardware. 1942 was like 10p to have a go. How much was this to have a go? I don't know. If it was like 10p, 20p, fair enough. In fact, great, I'd have loved it. If it was like some Neo Geo games, like getting, oh bollocks, towards £1 or 50p or something like that, I would have thought twice. Yeah. But that's the thing, I don't know what it cost to play Neo Geo games back in the day. Not a clue. Oh, God. Not going to get very far here. Ah, that's what that does. Cool. Have some more of that. And another one. I don't know how many it takes to get this guy. Oh, I've got no more. Oops. Oh, that was crap. Oh, there we go. I'm always amused by shadow effects that are achieved by interlace flicker. So it's like one frame you've got one image, the next frame you've got another. Actually, I'm not sure that that's interlace flicker, that's just, what's the word? It's what they used to do on Atari 2600s. I've forgotten. There was a word. Can't remember what it was. It's going to bug me now. Anyway, it amuses me to see it on much more advanced hardware. Though they did it on Ataris not to create translucency effects, though they may have done that as well, but often they did it as a way of keeping up the frame rate or speed of movement, basically to free up processor time. Just draw the objects half the time. But it had the effect of creating translucency, like the ghosts on Pac-Man. They were flickering because they needed the processor time, but ghosts, you expect translucency. Maybe not on Pac-Man, but you know, as a concept, ghosts are see-through, so it kind of, oh, for goodness sake, it kind of made sense for them to make the ghosts flicker. Oh. If I wasn't distracted, but God, continue. I can't continue. I've got no more continues. Yeah, game over, said Bill Paxton. Save yes or no? No, I'm not going to save that. That is Ghost Pilots. It is on the Neo Geo Mini. It is a glorified 1942 type game. I ain't doing that either. It's good. It's fun. It's not... Well, as far as I got, which was not very far, it didn't amaze me. It didn't make me think this is blowing my mind. But I enjoyed playing it. So, you know, not bad. Okay, that'll do. Thank you for watching. Hello. Today's question for Q&A is from FiXato. Link to his channel down there. He asks, for Q&A, do you think having easy access to such a big library of games, especially through mass storage devices such as the EverDrive, result in not giving some games a fair chance because it's too easy to just give up and switch to a different game whenever you get stuck? Please don't just address this from where you are in life now, with limited time and not wanting to waste time at getting better, but also from the perspective of when you started gaming. Okay, that's actually kind of difficult in that, well, I'll get to it. From the perspective of right now with EverDrives, absolutely yes, most definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. And I can only speak for myself. I often don't give games a fair crack of the whip. As you pointed out, because I don't have time, but also I don't have the inclination. It's like, especially when playing retro games. A retro game for me has got to be instantly impressive. And it is harder for a retro game to impress than a modern game because it doesn't have that graphical wow factor. You can take a modern game that might be fairly unspectacular in terms of groundbreaking gameplay, but visually you just like your jaw drops because modern graphics are amazing. Retro games don't have that, so they have to be very quickly accessible and fun straight out of the box with me. Otherwise I'm just not going to put in the time because they're not going to make me go wow graphically. You know, I can look at them and appreciate what were good graphics at the time, but things have moved on. Basically we're spoiled by modern hardware and modern graphics, and it is the same with everything. You can't, after driving a modern hot hatch, jump into a Ferrari 308 and go wow at the performance because your hot hatch is faster. You know, so what was impressive back then visually is not impressive now. So it comes down to, is it really good? And if it is, it needs to be good really straight off the bat. So no, I don't necessarily give games a good crack of the whip. I'm almost certainly missing out on some very good games because of that. Strategy games in particular come to mind, but some simulators. where back in the day I would have really liked them and put in the time. Now I'm just plain not going to. And having an EverDrive, it's like, well, having lots of EverDrives, having that really wide choice, I know that I've got really good games. You know, if there's a good game on a given system that I've got an EverDrive for, well then I've got that game, and it's a case of finding them. So if I play something that is not immediately making me go, that's bloody brilliant, or I just can't make progress on, because it is about, do I move on if I get stuck? Yeah, if I can't make progress, I'm not going to spend the time, and I move on and look for something else that's going to make me go, wow. Yeah, I can answer that very, very easily. Back in the day, when I started gaming, well, I can't so easily answer the question, because I didn't have a big collection of games for quite a while. Certainly when I had my Atari 2600, the games for it were expensive, and it would take me a significant amount of time to save up to buy a game. So even if that game was not particularly good, I would play it a lot. I would get good at them. I don't think there were many games where I was just like, and moved on to the next one. I would try and get the most out of them that I possibly could, but I didn't have a lot of games. They were expensive. I had to get value for money. That's on the Atari. Moving on to the Acorn Electron, which that was my next gaming system, I did get a fairly big selection of games. There were some games that I never progressed very far at, and weren't especially impressive games. Predator, for one, comes to mind. Shit game. Couldn't get far. I don't think it was my fault. I think it's just that it was a shit game. The gameplay was incredibly limited. I mean, it was a run and gun, but it was crude. It was not well done. But I still played it, and I would put in... I mean, when you've spent 10 minutes waiting for a game to load, and you get to play for perhaps 5 minutes and then you've lost all your lives. It's not a matter of getting your money's worth so much as giving it a fair crack of the whip just because you spent so much time waiting for it to load. So I think back then I did give games more of a chance, even though I had a significant number of them, just because the investment of time to make the game load, you were like, well, I've done all of that, so I'd better have a go and play the thing, hadn't I? Even though on some games it was pointless, you weren't going to progress. There were some games that I just didn't bother. I had a flight sim. I can't remember what it was called. The blurb on the back made it sound like magazines had reviewed it very, very highly for its sophistication and realistic nature. Really, it wasn't. I think it was Phantom something to do with Phantom F4. Can't remember. Still got it. I haven't tried it again since then. Yeah, that's one I didn't bother with over much, even though I liked simulators at that time, because it took bloody ages to load, and honestly, it was crap. It was hugely complex in that there were a lot of controls and a lot of things that you had to do just to get the plane off the flight deck. Your speed had to be right, your flaps had to be right, you had to pull your wheels up at the right time, all kinds of stuff, and if you got any of those wrong, you crashed. This is my recollection of it from like 30 years ago, so I may be remembering details incorrectly, but that's my memory of it. And then when you actually did manage to get into the air, after much practice and messing around and trying to work out what had you done wrong, you would encounter an enemy plane, and all the enemy plane was like a V in the air. It was like, were they trying to simulate vector graphics? If they were very, very unimpressive. Underdeveloped. Yeah, there just wasn't any point. You kind of think, it's a flight sim, you're gonna go up against other planes, you want them to look like planes, even however crudely. You don't want an abstract representation, which is really all they were. It was not good. But it was so rare I ever even came across an enemy plane. You know, I could hardly keep my own plane in the sky, and if I came across an enemy plane, I could not keep them in my sights, much less shoot them down. So yeah, that's one that I probably played 2 or 3 times and then never went back to. But that wasn't because I had a large collection of games, it was just because the game was crap. Yeah, I don't know, I suppose it depends with game systems. I don't know, I mean, I had quite a lot of games on my Mega Drive, and there were some games that were not necessarily easy to progress at. The Immortal comes to mind. That game was fiendishly difficult, but I spent a lot of time playing it, even though I had quite a few, you know, options in terms of what to play. And it's not like I'd invested lots of time in loading the game. And it's not actually like I'd spent a lot of money on the game, because it was one that I borrowed from that place where you swap them for 50p and get another one. But I put in quite a bit of time on that game. Didn't progress very far, but I was fascinated by, well, it was the very graphical deaths, wasn't it? And it was all a little bit, it was less based on skill and more based on memory. Don't step on this bit, don't step on that bit, the spikes will come up and skewer you and go through your brain and you'll die in a pool of blood and gore. But it was fascinating. I don't know. I think it might be an age thing. I don't think I was quite so quick to move on to the next game back in the day than I am now. I might be remembering it wrong, but I do think I gave them more of a chance then than I do now. It's getting old. It's getting old for you. I'm so bloody old I can't speak. Okay, I think that answers that. If you've got any questions you'd like answering in a video like this, just leave your question in the comments down there. Begin your question with for Q&A, so I know not to just answer it in the comments. And thank you for watching.
It says here Benway offers his thanks to those who subscribe to his Patreon account thing. Is that what he needs?